Imagine you are standing in front of your brightly lit bathroom mirror. You reach out with a wet hand, grab a small plastic wand covered in stiff nylon bristles, and squeeze a dollop of brightly colored chemical paste onto its surface. And then, you raise it to your mouth and begin to scrub. You scrub the smooth surfaces and aggressively force the bristles into the tight spaces between your teeth. You perform this highly specific routine every single morning and repeat it every single night. Why do you do this? Because you have been warned since childhood that if you stop, your mouth will slowly and painfully fall apart. Your teeth will rot, turn black, shatter into pieces, and eventually fall completely out of your skull. You live in constant, low-level fear of the dentist's chair. You fear the sharp metal hooks and the high-pitched, whining sound of the drill. But have you ever stopped to wonder why this is your reality? Did nature really spend millions of years perfectly engineering the human body, only to give you teeth designed to self-destruct? Think about the sheer absurdity of it for a second. Your skin heals its own cuts. Your bones seamlessly mend themselves when they break. Everything about your biological vessel is an absolute masterpiece of survival engineering. Except your teeth. Your teeth seem incredibly fragile and entirely dependent on modern, synthetic technology to simply exist. Why? To find the answer, you must travel back in time. Far beyond the creation of the very first primitive toothbrush. You must travel back 40,000 years into the deep, dark past of the Pleistocene era. Imagine walking through a dense, primeval forest. You step cautiously into a small clearing. There, sitting quietly by a crackling orange fire, is your ancient ancestor. They are draped in rough animal hides, their hair thickly matted with dirt, ash, and dried sweat. By all modern standards of hygiene, they are completely disgusting. They have never seen a bar of soap, and they have absolutely, unequivocally never brushed their teeth. Now imagine this ancient hunter turns their head to look directly at you. They smile, and what you see completely shatters everything you thought you knew about human health. Their teeth are absolutely perfect. They are brilliantly straight, perfectly aligned, and striking white against the dirt on their rugged face. There are no dark cavities, no visible decay, and no missing teeth rotting from the gums. Their jaw is incredibly broad, heavily muscled, and deeply defined. How could someone who has never once touched a toothbrush possess a modern Hollywood smile? The secret lies in the fundamental mechanical structure of their skull, driven by the brute force physics of chewing. Your ancient ancestors did not eat soft, highly processed, easily digestible foods like fluffy bread or sugary cereals. Their world was intensely unforgiving, and their daily diet heavily reflected that brutal reality. They ate raw, fibrous roots, and continuously chewed on dense, highly muscular meat from wild game. They cracked open and gnawed on thick animal bones to extract the nutrient-rich marrow. Every single meal they consumed was an intense physical workout for their complex facial muscles. This constant mechanical stress signaled their jawbones to grow. The heavy pressure of chewing tough foods caused their jaws to physically expand, making their faces incredibly wide and structurally robust. Because their jaws grew to their full genetic potential, there was plenty of room for every single tooth to erupt perfectly into place. Even the massive third molars you dread, as your wisdom teeth fit perfectly at the back of their wide mouths. Nature provided flawless orthodontics through the simple, demanding act of daily survival. Now think carefully about your own mouth. Your jaw is highly likely to be narrow and underdeveloped. Your teeth might be slightly crowded, fighting desperately for the limited space available. Your wisdom teeth probably had to be surgically ripped from your bleeding gums because they were impacted beneath the bone. This is not a tragic genetic mistake. It is a catastrophic environmental failure. You grew up eating overwhelmingly soft foods like mashed potatoes and soft white bread. Your jaw simply never received the massive mechanical load it desperately needed to grow to its full size. Your face is literally shrinking compared to the imposing faces of your ancient ancestors. But a shrinking jaw is only half of this terrifying evolutionary story. The real tragedy is hidden deep in the invisible chemistry of what you consume every day. For millions of years, the human diet contained virtually zero refined sugar. When your ancestors did consume carbohydrates, those sugars were heavily locked inside tough, highly fibrous plants. Their mouths were naturally alkaline environments, and their saliva was incredibly rich in vital minerals. Whenever they ate, their saliva would naturally wash over their teeth like a healing river, constantly remineralizing their enamel shield. Their mouths were home to a perfectly balanced microbiome that actively protected their teeth from external threats. But then, everything violently changed. About 10,000 years ago, humanity made a monumental and irreversible decision. We stopped hunting and gathering, settled down, and invented agriculture. This was the celebrated birth of human civilization, but for your teeth, it was the beginning of an absolute biological nightmare. We began to artificially grow vast fields of grain, grinding them into fine, soft powders to bake bread. For the first time in human history, our daily diet was completely dominated by soft, highly fermentable carbohydrates. When you chew modern bread, the natural enzymes in your saliva immediately break down those complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. This creates a sticky, invisible paste that aggressively clings to the deep grooves of your teeth. And waiting patiently in the dark shadows of your mouth is a specific type of bacteria, Streptococcus mutans. This microscopic organism violently feasts on the sticky carbohydrate residue left behind by your soft diet. As it rapidly consumes these sugars, it produces a highly acidic, highly corrosive byproduct. This invisible acid is the mortal enemy of your protective enamel, rapidly dropping the pH level in your mouth and turning it into a destructive wasteland. The acid slowly dissolves the vital minerals in your teeth, ruthlessly eating away at the hard outer shell and burrowing deep into the sensitive dentin. This is exactly how a cavity is born. It is not a natural biological phenomenon. It is a man-made disease brought on by a fundamental, unnatural shift in what we blindly consume. Ancient hunter-gatherers almost never experienced dental decay of this magnitude. But as farming societies aggressively emerged, archaeological records show a terrifying explosion of rotting teeth and devastating oral infections. The unearthed skulls of early farmers are heavily riddled with dark, gaping holes where perfectly healthy teeth used to be. Imagine having a deeply infected, rotting tooth throbbing with relentless pain that radiates into the core of your skull. There were no modern painkillers. There was only raw, unmitigated suffering. Archaeologists have discovered horrifying skulls, exhibiting extremely crude, desperate dental work. Imagine someone deliberately using a jagged piece of flint to brutally drill into your rotting tooth while you are fully awake, aggressively stuffing the exposed nerve with sticky beeswax to stop the blinding pain. This was the deeply terrifying reality of early human dentistry. And yet, our daily diet only became more intensely destructive. During the Industrial Revolution, highly refined sugar became incredibly cheap and widely available. It was systematically added to almost everything we consumed, causing our global sugar consumption to skyrocket to unnatural levels. Our teeth paid the ultimate devastating price. The modern world you live in is a constant, highly engineered assault on your personal dental health. Every sip of carbonated soda, every bite of candy, every slice of highly processed bread, you are actively feeding the massive bacterial army inside your mouth, intentionally arming them with the chemical fuel they desperately need to destroy your natural enamel. This is exactly why you have to aggressively brush your teeth twice a day and violently drag a piece of waxed string between them. This is why you have to visit a professional twice a year to forcefully scrape away the hardened plaque your unnatural diet leaves behind. You are not fighting a natural biological weakness. You are constantly fighting the devastating consequences of modern human civilization. Your plastic toothbrush is not a tool for natural health, but a desperate synthetic weapon used daily to mitigate the damage caused by an unnatural lifestyle. Your ancient ancestors bravely survived the darkest nights, brutal ice ages, and encounters with massive apex predators. And they did it all with perfect, brilliantly white smiles, without ever once knowing what a toothbrush was. They were biologically optimized for their harsh environment,